Hello again, everyone. I have some stuff in front of me here. I have a brown box, another brown box, and an old SSD. So what the heck am I up to? Well, if you've seen the title of the video, then you already know. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to set up your very own Raspberry Pi based NAS. This is part of a home lab experiment that I'm currently running to see how much of my server stack I can actually do on the Raspberry Pi platform, which of course is a lot more efficient when it comes to energy usage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unbox this box and this box right here. I'll show you what's in these boxes, and then we'll go ahead and get started in building a Raspberry Pi NAS. Okay, well, in front of me is all of my stuff, so I'll show you what I'm working with. Now, first of all, I have the Raspberry Pi 4. This is the 4 gigabyte model right here. You don't need the 4 gigabyte model, but I mean, if you're going to buy a Pi, you might as well buy the best, right? So you're going to need this, obviously. Then I also have an SD card right here. This is 128 gigabytes right here, which is, overkill, but I think it'll be fine. I only buy large SD cards anyway, so I think we'll be okay with this one. So go ahead and put that aside. Now I have this old hard drive. It's a PNY SSD, and it's only about 240 gigabytes, I believe. So really not anything that amazing. This is all I had lying around. So maybe you'll have a bigger or better hard drive than I have, but I think this will be good enough for this experiment. In this box right here from Geekworm, I have the X828. This board is actually what's going to allow us to plug in our SSD to the Pi or hard drive, whatever you have. And obviously you could put a hard drive in an external enclosure and just use USB 3, and then you wouldn't even need this. But I thought that this would be probably a lot cooler, and it allows us to basically mount everything in place. Now you can actually stack more than one hard drive. I only have one of these modules. But one important thing to mention is when you buy this, it doesn't come with this, and this is the actual power cord right here. I saw some negative comments on Amazon, and people were angry that they didn't get a power cord with the board, but I don't think it advertises that you do. So just keep in mind, if you want to buy this board, you're going to need a power cord as well, and it is specific to this. So I'll put this aside. And let's go ahead and get this stuff unboxed. Now this isn't going to be particularly exciting or anything, but we may as well show it off. So we'll go ahead and open this. And of course we have some instructions right here. But I'm going to show you the entire process in this video. So I'll go ahead and put this aside. Then we have the actual board itself. And open this up. So this is the actual board. This is what's going to allow us to attach our hard drive, and this is going to allow us to mount everything together in one unit. So I'll go ahead and flip it over. So obviously right here is where you actually insert the hard drive. So that's pretty cool. Now also in the box, we have some standoffs and some screws which are going to allow us to mount everything in place. We have this USB adapter right here. And then we also have this cable. And I'll show you what all of this is in just a moment. But, basically this is the board for the hard drive. Then here, we have the actual power cord. So, I don't really think this is anything too exciting. I mean, if you've seen one power cord, you've seen them all. It has a barrel connector. And then it has some attachments here. Depending on what country you are in, you might need to use one of these. And, I'm going to use this one because I'm in the United States. But we also have this one right here. So we have some options. So, power cord. Go ahead and put this aside. And basically what's going to happen is the power cord will plug into this board right here. That's how you're going to get some power to your apparatus. And you are not going to use the Raspberry Pi power cord in addition to this. This here should be the only one that you actually use. You could cause a problem if you try to have two power cords attached, because this power cord should power not only the board, but also the Raspberry Pi itself. This should be the only one that you need. So let's go ahead and get started on building it. Okay, so I have my screwdriver, then I have a bunch of screws right here. And we should have everything we need to get this thing built. On the underside of the board, we have icons which resemble screws. I'll try to focus the camera on this right here. And these 4 are where we're actually going to start. So we'll grab one of these flat screws right here and push it through the hole and hold it in place. Then we'll get one of these standoffs, female on both sides, and then we'll just, using our fingers, just go ahead and tighten that on there. We could just make it hand tight for now, and then we just repeat for each one of those same labeled screw holes here. And so far, our device should look like this. We should have 4 standoffs screwed onto the board. So next, we're going to attach the hard drive. So here on the underside of the board, we have the SATA connector right there. So pretty simple. We're just going to slide this in place. And here it is. It's nice and snug on the board. Now we need to screw in these 2 screws right here where my thumbs are. We have 2. So I'll go ahead and set the screws in place. And we'll need to use a screwdriver for this because these screws are kind of a pain, kind of annoying. So basically what you'll do is you'll screw them in, just get them a little bit more started here. Now what you have to do is actually be somewhat firm. You don't want to squeeze too tight, but you want to squeeze the hard drive to the board. Otherwise this isn't going to go in. So I'll go ahead and just pinch it with my fingers and then just go ahead and screw this down into the hard drive. You can see the hard drive really wants to lift. You have to make sure that it's in place. And then go ahead and just make sure you get a nice and firm attachment here. And we can see that the hard drive is now, well, it's secure. Now, again, I did have to put a little bit of force. I didn't want to put too much on here to get these to screw into the drive. This is an old hard drive, so it's possible that there could have been something wrong with it, but the instructions do say you have to press firmly as you screw these down. But anyway, the hard drive is attached to the board. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to run away on us. It's permanently attached to this board. Well, not permanently, but it's definitely secure. Okay, so next, I'm going to attach the Raspberry Pi here to the top and hold it in place. And I have one of these really short standoffs right here. I'm going to basically just screw that right here to hold that in place. It'll make sense why we need that standoff in just a moment. And then we go ahead and screw in the board by just attaching the related screws here. So next I'm going to attach this cable right here. This fits down right here. Just go ahead and take a look at it, make sure that everything is lined up, and it appears to be. And then we're going to attach another screw. And then we attach this to the board. And there you go. So far, so good. So next we have this USB cable right here. So I'm going to rip it open because I'm way too impatient. And here's the cable. And then next we basically just attach the USB cable. Pretty self-explanatory. And I attached it to this USB port here only because if you try to put it under here, it just puts a lot of pressure between the boards, and I don't think that's actually going to be healthy. So I think it's actually better to have it over here, but maybe it doesn't matter. Now, as an option, we have all these extra standoffs here. Well, what do we do with these? Well, actually, what you can do is just use these screws right here and then just attach them to the board. Because if you want to attach multiple hard drives, these standoffs will basically allow you to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and attach them. And there we go. Now you might want to basically omit these standoffs right here on the bottom if you don't plan on stacking these hard drives, but I probably will. So I'll just go ahead and leave that on there, but that is optional. You do want to probably keep them aside in case you do actually decide to stack additional drives one day, but keep in mind you're going to need another power cord for each one of these boards. It's recommended so you don't have an under voltage situation. But anyway, this is actually all set and ready to go, at least from a hardware perspective. And then basically all I'm going to do is just, obviously plug it in. I'll attach this header right here. And you know what? We should be good to go. But there's one thing that we're missing. And you've probably guessed it. I have this SD card, but I don't actually have any operating system on this right now. We do need to insert this into the Pi and power it on, but we're going to need to actually flash some sort of operating system onto this SD card, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So now that the hardware is all assembled, the next step is to set up the SD card with the required software. In my case, I have to put my SD card in this extender. I'll go ahead and slide it into the laptop, and I'll show you the process. So the first thing we're going to want to do is to open up a browser, and we need to download the required image. So I'll paste the URL in here. It'll also be in the description down below. And then when you get to the downloads page, you go ahead and scroll down. And the version that I'm going to download is this one right here, Raspbian Buster Lite. And the difference with this one is that it doesn't contain a graphical user environment. It's just a lot smaller and there's less getting in the way. Now, if you go with a different version of Raspbian, that's totally fine, but this is the version that I'm going to download, so I'll just download the zip file. Go ahead and save it, and then I'll let that finish. In addition to that, we should also download Etcher, so I'll go to etcher.io, then I'll click on the download button, and now we should have everything that we need. So basically I have two zip files, one for Etcher and the other for Raspbian. So I'll unzip both of those. And then what I'll do is open up Etcher right here. I'll select the image. And in the downloads directory, it's going to be a .img file. So it's this one right here, open. Select the target disk. And here's my SD card. Again, it's 128 gigabytes, definitely overkill, but I'll click on it. Then click continue. You definitely want to make sure that you do choose the right device because this will erase everything on it. But I'll click flash and then continue to ignore this warning. My sudo password, and we should be good to go. And it's all done. So now what I'll do is just eject the SD card. And then I'm going to put it right back into the computer again. And you can see on the file manager, in my case, I have boot and root fs. I'm going to click on boot. So what I'm going to do is create an empty file. This is optional, but highly recommended. But the GNOME file manager has this really stupid problem where you can right click to create a new file, but how are you going to right click when, basically there's no empty space here? So I'll try to change the view type. Then I should be able to right click. I'll do new document and then empty file. And then I'm going to call it simply SSH. And what that will do is actually trigger the SSH daemon to be enabled at first login, which is very useful for us to go ahead and configure this in case we do intend on using SSH. So in addition to that, if you do plan on using Wi-Fi for your NAS, then there's another file that you can create here that's going to automate the setup of your Wi-Fi network. So I'll show you how to do that right now in case you need to. So you'll just right click again, do new document, we'll create an empty file. And I'm going to name it WPA supplicant.conf. Then we can go ahead and open it up. And I'll paste the contents in here, but you could check the wiki article for this video so you can copy and paste it. Essentially what we're doing is we're adding Wi-Fi config right here, but what you're going to need to do is change this right here to be whatever the name of your Wi-Fi network happens to be. Then this section right here will be for your Wi-Fi password. And then you save the file and then close out. In my case, I'm going to remove this because I don't plan on using Wi-Fi. I'm going to connect an actual Ethernet cable. But there's one more thing that we probably should do. If we click on rootfs and then go to Etsy, we should be able to right-click and then open in terminal. We're going to need root privileges for this, which is why I did open a terminal, and we're going to do sudo nano hostname, enter, password. The default name is Raspberry Pi, so I'm going to call mine pi-nas, just like that. Then I'll save the file. And then next, we're going to edit one more file. And the file is, again, in the Etsy directory in the SD card under hosts. And then on the last line here, we can go ahead and just change the name to match. Control O to save, and then Control X to exit out. Close the terminal window. And then we can unmount the SD card partitions. And then you'll eject the SD card, put it into your Pi, power it on, and we should be good to go. Just keep in mind that because we are using an expansion board for the hard drive, the power cord for that board is the only one we'll plug in. We will not plug in any power cord to the Pi itself. Okay, so off camera, I inserted the SD card into the Pi. I plugged in an Ethernet cable, and then I connected the power cable and turned it on. In fact, there it is right there. So what I'm going to do right now is show you how to install OpenMediaVault. So I think enough time has passed to give the Pi an opportunity to start up. So I will open up a terminal. Go ahead and make this full screen. And I should be able to get to it via SSH. So I should be able to do SSH pi at pi-nas. That's the host name that I did give it. And that's why I decided to give it a name before I started it up, because I wanted it to be available on my network under that name. And I should be able to connect to it by name because my router actually configures DNS with newly attached devices. So let's see if it works. Then the default password is Raspberry. And enter. And there we go. I have successfully connected to this device via SSH, but I hate these terminal colors, so I'm going to go ahead and correct that real quick. Let's see if that's a little bit easier to see. So if you had any trouble connecting to your Pi NAS via the hostname, then another thing you can do is log into your router, check out the DHCP client list, and you might find it there. It should show an IP address, and then you should be able to SSH into the machine via its IP address. You just replace the hostname in my example with the IP address. If everything goes well, you basically should have an SSH session open to that device like I have right here. Next, what you'll need to do is run a very specific command to install OpenMediaVault. I'll paste the command in this window right here, and then you can go ahead and pause the video if you need time to copy that down. Or you could copy it from the wiki article that I will have linked in the description below this video. And that's the command right there, so I'll press enter. And I'll let it run. All right, so the Raspberry Pi has been set up with OpenMediaVault. So now it's time to reboot the unit and see if it was successful. So here I am on a web browser. I'm going to go ahead and type in the hostname of the NAS. Let's see what happens. Well, this certainly looks promising. So I'll log in with admin, then OpenMediaVault for the password. And would you look at that, we actually have the OpenMediaVault interface on our screen right now. So far everything has been successful. The next thing that we're going to need to do is set up the hard drive because, well, without a hard drive, what good is a NAS? So I'll go here to disks. And you can see right here we have /dev/SDA in my case. That is my SSD, the one that I attached to the board. PNY is the vendor, so everything does check out. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe that drive. I'll choose Quick. Let's close that. So at this point, if you go to File Systems and then Create, and now that I've wiped the drive, it'll show up as an option here. Then ext4 is fine. I'll click OK. And I'll confirm. And despite all these really strange characters, it appears to have been successful, so I'll click Close. So next I'll click on Mount. And then I'll go to Shared Folders, click Add. My shared folder, not feeling very creative today, and then for the device, I'll select the drive that I just wiped. I'll accept the default path, and then I'll click Save. And then I'll go to SMB right here. I'm going to go ahead and enable this. This is useful if you want to share files between Windows and Linux machines. I'll click Save. I'll go to Shares. I'll click Add. Then I'll choose the shared folder. I'll go ahead and make it public. And then I'll save. And to make sure that we can definitely get back to the NAS, we need to go to Network. And then Interfaces. Click Add. In my case, I'll add Ethernet because that's what I have. Select the device. We only have one. And then for IPv4, we'll go ahead and choose static. And this is how we can add a static IP address so that it'll never change. I'll give you some example values, but you do want to make sure that this matches your network environment. So again, I'm just making up some very random things here. But the numbers might look very similar to yours depending on how you have yours set up. Again, this is to make sure that the IP address of your Pi NAS doesn't change. Now in my case, I have DHCP reservations on my router, so I don't actually need to configure this, so I'm going to cancel. In your case, that might be something that you'll need to do. Okay, so with all that done, I'm going to click Apply up here to basically make the changes take effect. And then Yes. And then I'll give it some time to complete. So next I'll open a file manager window. I'll go to Other Locations. And right here we see Pi NAS. That's the unit that we set up. So I'll go into that. And there's the shared folder, so I'll double click. I'll connect Anonymous. And there you go. I was successfully able to connect to the shared folder on the NAS, so everything looks like it's set up properly. So there you go. It looks like our project was all set. We were able to create our very own Raspberry Pi based NAS server. How awesome is that? So let me know what you think in the comments below. I love doing projects like these, so if there's anything else you would like me to add or work on, let me know in the comments. And then you never know, maybe I'll do a video on that. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I will see you in the next video.